for 3 episodes, bro. We were good.
It's
I mean,
funny
something I
you
will
say
say,
that.
especially in regards to the war arc here, what
Mhm.
we're doing in this case is I almost feel like I'm getting deja vu with this conversation, but in this case, I say is
Into a different way. They have a word for that. It's called a
Mhm.
segue. Don't know why I didn't just say that, but so just like My Hero, I think Attack on Titan does a similar thing to where, again, comparing My Hero to like a comedy, to where the comedy is the important part. It's like satire, like The Boys. I think the narrative is like a fundamental aspect of My Hero that they don't do the best.
Mm.
It's like the tight knit rule thing to where, because I'm a screenwriter, by the way. I don't know if I've said this or not, but
Oh yeah.
I think you know this, but yeah. So I care about tight knit stories. I think something you said way, way earlier was really interesting, that you think new anime are more tight knit than previous anime. I want to get to that because I disagree on that to some level. Halfway, anyways. Some parts I agree, some parts I disagree. But I think Attack on Titan does the same thing, to where I think the pacing is something that holds it back tremendously. Maybe
Mhm.
Kaiju number 8 doesn't do that, but again, I think the narrative Attack on Titan is very important, and so focusing on that, you should not just have exceptions. You should just have the rule itself be good, to where Attack on Titan has very hype moments, just like Solo Leveling. I feel like has the same thing, to where there's no substance to the story. Attack on Titan, it does
Mhm.
have substance to the story, but I feel like, again, it's exceptions to the rule, to where there's very hype moments. Like I feel like the characters with Solo Leveling and Eren are just basically the same thing. Jinwoo, to where they have like Eren type characters where they can get extreme in extreme situations. But I feel like the story isn't there consistently enough to say the same thing. And shout out ShamBK for subscribing. Thank you, ShamBK. We should also get back to chat, but Kamui, I know you have seen Attack on Titan, so I'm sure you have a lot to say on Attack on Titan. But I think at least
Mhm.
maybe Kamui, regardless if you think Attack on Titan is good or bad, what do you think about the pacing of Attack on Titan consistently all the way through? Kamui? Kamui?
I'm a wee.
Well, Kamui works on that. I will say. No, I'm not gonna
never
say
mind.
you.
Hold on, no, I
Oh,
figured
there
it
you are.
out.
Okay.
I just realized thank God you said that because otherwise I would have kept going on without you hearing anything. All right, I forgot what I started saying. Shit. Well, anyway, I could look past a lot of Attack on Titan's flaws because I like it enough,
Mhm.
but I also can notice things.
I
So as
don't.
far as pacing goes, I think in my opinion at least, season 4 overall might be my favorite pacing wise.
The first
Season
half.
1,
Yeah.
huh?
The first half of season 4, I would agree. Not the second half.
Even just if I'm gonna pick one season, I might pick that one. Um, the other content, season three's problem is I love the second half. It's arguably my favorite part
Yes.
of the story for Return to Shiganshina. But the first half, well, I enjoy all of
Mhm.
Attack on Titan. Like I can admit that's definitely the low point of the season. Part of it's just the who cares aspect. While it's interesting world building wise, and I like uncovering mysteries aspect, I also just do not care as much about Historia as I do Bertolt, Reina, Armin, and
Mhm.
Aaron, like in those dynamics. So, this aspect. But anyway, um, season 1, it's like it starts off with a bang, then it slows down from it. Then I really like the female Titan arc, so I thought that was paced pretty good. Um, season 2 is probably my least favorite because while I loved sussing out not Annie, Reina, Bertolt, and Ymir. That was something I had fun with. I don't think the pacing of the arc is necessarily like go go go, all the time.
And
It's
season
kind
2
of
really
like
feels like it
slow,
really revolves around that one moment in the middle of the season. It
Moment.
builds up to that, and then it plays off
Yeah.
of that for the entire season. That's the only central figure piece that
Yeah.
really matters. There's other big moments in the season, especially in the finale, but like you get the point. And
Yeah, the finale. Well, the finale was awesome, but there's not anything you're building towards. It's kind of just like, dude, the
There.
smiling Titan's back. Let's go. So, and yeah,
Mhm.
the built up is carried by the mystery element. And they probably could have done that in a more engaging way. Like I said, I was engaged because this whole time I was on a streak of sussing out the Titans. And so I'm looking at every detail, like, let's go. I know I'm right. I know I'm right. But if you weren't doing that, I could totally understand how you'd be disengaged. And as far as rewatching goes, well, I already know it. So, okay, I pick up, oh, this time Bertolt was going to bite his hand. What did he do? One new detail. Okay, other than that, I'm not really going to be as engaged.
Especially,
because it is slowed down. I enjoy it, but
the problem
it's
with
not
this,
as yeah.
unlike Death Note, to where it's like a cat and mouse dynamic, that's not the route, the direction the story was trying to move in. They were trying specifically on purpose, intentionally, to go in like a red herring kind of angle, with the main story revolving around, oh, the Titans breached the wall, we gotta find the hole, let's go to the castle, and let's, oh man, it's weird, we went all the way around the walls and we didn't find a single hole, how they're Titan. We don't care about the story. We don't care at all about this mystery. It's about solving a mystery we don't care about. That's the story, which leads the readers to be disengaged and bored and not care. But I feel like that's intentional, again, going into season 6. The first half of season 6, you're basically asleep. You don't, like, the first half is just them going on top of the wall, again, to find a hole. I don't care. They don't care, even. It's barely. So it's about leading them astray to go in a direction to where there was nothing there the whole time. But again, in retrospect, there's nothing there. You're watching empty episodes that intentionally don't matter, so that you can be led astray for episode 6 to have that harder impact, because, wow, you were so far off, you had no idea this was happening the whole time. But yeah.
I will also say that while, of course, hindsight, season 3 and especially season 4 in mind, you actually understand what Zeke was doing. But even just as a payoff for season 2, you still don't know what the fuck was up with a lot of that. It's like, yeah, you understand there wasn't actually a hole in the walls. The Titans are just there, and oh, there's this mysterious beast Titan, we don't know. But it's not like, if you got the reveal that, like, hey, this beast Titan turned people into Titans, maybe you could say, okay, like, you get the payoff for the mystery, but you don't get the payoff for that mystery until freaking 2 seasons later. So it's almost like, yeah, the mystery doesn't matter. It's just kind of an excuse to get a couple scenes with Ryan Bertolt and Ymir. So I can get that aspect.
Again, it's like making the story of the tuning exams about the tuning exams and putting Neji, Gaara, and Orochimaru on the back burner.
I would say it'd be like having the tuning exams, except not having any compelling parts or subplots in that exam. So there's nothing else to really focus on other than saying random things here and there. Ideally, to have a story, you can have your plot, your overarching plot, but having your subplots also can build into it, because some subplots are going to pit for you and others aren't. And honestly, through Attack on Titan, most of the subplots are just kind of really filler plots until they can get a really big moment, which hit after the first one, because you get those in the first couple of shock value. Actually, I'm gonna draw a comparison here. The way Attack on Titan starts with its comparison and the way it kind of goes for a lot of shock value is very much the way that The Boys season 1 does a lot of shock value, where it's supposed to be a lot of, oh wow, that happened, oh wow, I can't believe that happened, oh they did that, oh my god, that's the main character, what means that, oh he did look like that. It's a lot of that. And once you get that formula down, you can only shock for so long before the shock wears off. And I think the last quality shock they had was the big reveal, which a lot of people were kind of guessing for season 2. And when it finally happened, it's like, okay, we saw that. And now what comes from that? This is just all resolution from that one point. And most of the seasons kind of build to a point, but it doesn't build like a staircase. It's probably the best way I say My Hero Academia builds most times towards something. A lot of times it's going down a hall and then you just open a door and you're at that point. And then there's another hall where you run down the resolution of Attack on Titan. Another hall of whatever, a lot of whatever moments that don't really seem to be tangible. And even the small parts you pay attention to don't really give you much after the point of paying attention. It doesn't pay off you paying extra attention to know the small things, because either they'll, one, retell you those things right before it happened or right after it happens again, or two, it'll happen and the small thing you remember wasn't impactful to begin with and doesn't impact the story moving forward in a significant way.
I thought of another comparison, which admittedly is going to be a little goofy, and I feel like especially Oodie might still prefer this. So it's going to use Naruto in the Chunin exams. Comparing it with season 2, I feel like it's kind of like what I'm about to explain. So we're gonna remove the interesting buildup, and we're gonna remove everything with Neji, and all the Forest of Death tuning exams built up with Gara. We're going to have this mysterious sound village, and Orochimaru can even make a cameo. But then that's gonna be the end of that.
Yeah.
The village invasion happens with the Sand Village. Orochimaru and the Sound Ninja don't play a part. It's just the Sand Village invades. So Gara just comes out, he's turning on everyone, and blah blah blah. No Orochimaru in this invasion. Then we find out in the Sasuke retrieval arc that the whole time Orochimaru was actually the mastermind behind the Konoha Crush invasion. That's kind of what I feel like this is like, to where you have a little bit of mystery during the exams, it goes away, and then the lackeys turn on them. And but that would be, like I said, we're removing all of Neji. We're removing the build-up with Gara. Like, it's just kind of like happening.
That's kind of what I was saying with putting them on the back burner, because in this case, you're just left with the medium that drives the story forward to be the story, which means you don't have a story. You have a medium. It's not the story.
I also feel like the other issue is they just took too long. I mean, I don't remember which episode in season 2 we actually get to Utgard Castle, but I just feel like we took a while to get to the freaking castle building with Ymir, Reina, Bertolt, Historia, Connie, and everyone. At that point, like, if the art just kind of like got to there by the end of episode 1, which I don't think they do, I feel like it takes a couple episodes.
Yeah.
But if they just got there pretty much immediately, that would help a bit, because, well, that is where most of the that's where the dynamics with Ymir and Historia happen. That's where all the foreshadowing with Ymir, Ryan, and Bertolt are. And then we kind of just, once that's done, we kind of just get to the Titan reveal, you could say, the betrayal moment, and then, the rest of the arc. So if you kind of just got to that sooner, that could help a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same story you could have told in 8 episodes instead of 12.
Exactly, bro.
Exactly.
This is what I'm getting to. So, okay, first of all, to address Ace's thing before I get to my boys. With the boys season 1, I do want to say, I do think the boys is very entertaining, which excuses, again, the narrative, in my opinion. It's also formulaic, but it's allowed to be, because it's not meant to be a narrative thing. I think season 1 had the best through line. It definitely was a solid through line, in my opinion. Very strongly written in that regard.
Oh yeah, my favorite by far.
Yeah, in fact, so much so to the point that season 2, 3, 4 arguably don't even have a through line at all. It's just disconnected events that they just do connect because they're all in the same season. It's just one event after the other. It's just a very entertaining. It's very entertaining,
sitcom-ish in the other seasons, which is there, and there's entertainment value, but it feels like they found what struck gold, because I know a lot of people watch it. A lot of times people will show it to other people because of the, oh, wow, that happened factor. Like, yeah, crazy things. The things that we imagine with superpowers happen in this world, and they show it, which cool. I get that those things happen perfectly fine. But at some point, is that the story that you're telling and just focusing on those moments? Or are you compelling an overall and overarching story that connects in different ways? And a lot of it started out as it might be more, and then it turned not into being that. And Attack on Titan does that a lot, where they have a lot of kind of possible starts to arcs, but they have no payoff, and until there's just the one big payoff in the arc, which that's the case, you can condense the arc and shave off a lot of, not even so much filler, but unnecessary dialogue and plot lines to streamline it more for what you're actually aiming for. And then your season works better because it's not taking you 4 or 5 episodes into season 2 to get the reveal. You can get that you can get that by episode 2, 3 at worst. And that's if you take a lot of time with the second episode.
Look and see what episode these things happen in.
Really quick on that as well, Ace, before I get back to my main point as well. So this is kind of what I was saying though, is that season 1 of The Boys tells a full story. It goes full circle, complete full round, complete story. The rest is so, but it ends season 1 where it ends. It tells a complete story despite there being things left unresolved in some ways. Like, but they resolve it, but they don't fully resolve it. Like A-Train's arc isn't complete, for example. What happens next? There's a continue, but it ended the season where it ended. Just like many movies do, tons of movies do this, to where they end with things that you can continue with, that sequels exist, but they end the movie where they did. For example, Avengers Infinity War. Like Avengers Infinity War. You can't just end it there. You need Endgame to finish that. But they ended it there for a reason. Like, they cut the story at that point because it was telling the story they wanted to tell. I think you did the same thing with My Hero.
I was going to say that could be possible, but you'd have to change the way you wrote the first 3 seasons of My Hero to make that work.
I was addressing that.
So I would say it's
start of it.
I was going to say, I'll say it can be possible. I just enjoyed the way that they've built My Hero because the episodes in between make sense to me, the way they built them together. So rechanging that, you could do it, but it seems like extra work to reach a similar conclusion.
Again, you can also move season 3, episode 4 to just some different episode or season or whatever. Like, you could just move it to where the end is, just shift the goalpost to where you can have other stories as well that are just addressed or resolved in that time. And especially the B story that I don't even care about in the first place. You can either just entirely remove it or just do whatever you want with it, move it earlier. I don't care.
I can see that. It's just different ways that we like certain parts of the story. That's all.
Exactly. Like introducing the League of Villains, I don't care about them yet. So, yeah.
Real quick, I looked. Episode 3 is when they get to the castle.
Okay.
So honestly, you could probably just condense the first 3 episodes, hit all the honestly, a lot of the random shit with like Aaron. I hate to say it. I don't even remember it because I don't remember it being important. So it's really the Rhina stuff. So I feel like you could just probably condense the Beast Titan, Rhina stuff, all that stuff in the first 3 episodes. Get to the castle, like.
So
yeah.
This gets back to
memory though. Like
you
if
could easily start
maybe
off
I'd pick up something that I forgot, but
I feel it's combinable in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. This gets back to my main point that I was trying to make before I was saying the boys stuff, but so back to this. So this is my hot take. So first of all, I just think Attack on Titan's just bad. Like it's like other things, just like JJK. It has good moments, but it's overall bad. It has exceptions, but the rule is that it's bad. Unlike other stories that are more tight knit.
JJK.
Oh yeah, I have it higher on my list than JJK.
Really did enjoy it, but...
So first of all, I will say season 4 saved it for me. It's at a 51 on my list. Because of season 4 entirely, the first half of season 4. If it wasn't for that, it'd be in the 80s, if not 90s. It's bad. But I will say, so the part of the reason I say that, most of the reason I say that, is because I don't know if you could actually do this, but I'm just gonna say that I feel like a general rule is you could just remove half of Attack on Titan without really losing anything. That sounds absurdly a lot, but like Kamui, we were just talking the other night how you could remove a freaking main character and it's not the biggest deal in the world. So like, I don't know if you could actually remove literally 50% and it's just completely fine. Maybe you could remove 40 to 35% and you're only losing like 10% of the least important part of the story, and that's fine. But like, just it's as a general rule. So season 1, I think, is the most consistent, most tightly knit. To where it's like sporadically throughout you can remove things, but like there's no like solid chunk you can just straight up take out. Whereas season 2, 3, and 4, I feel like that more so is the case. It's like the first half of season 2 is almost entirely removable. You can almost just take it down to 1 episode. The first half of season 3, again, make it 1 or 2 episodes. And then the second half of season 4, I just don't really care. You could pretty much remove it and it's just fine. That's like half of the story, so like, I feel like that just is the case.
Actually, I would say you probably could take about 50% of Attack on Titan and chop it in half and rewrite the pacing so it combines a bunch of different episodes together. I think that would work actually very well, and I think it would have a very... That's what I mean by more modernized anime. A lot of the anime that I watch now have more the Kaiju number 8 feel, where the story and the plot lines move accordingly per episode. Like with Attack on Titan, I feel like I could miss an episode, watch the next one, and in general be okay. A lot of animes that I prefer are the ones where if you miss an episode, you're missing key information that doesn't make the next episode make as much sense. you might be able to infer what happened, but it doesn't connect the dots because all the dots are lined up like a Pac-Man game versus just throwing them random on the floor and saying that's going to be an important spot. That's an important spot. This is going to be an important moment. And I think Attack of Titan lives on every season having that very hype moment. Like the first one, of course, is when the Titan first pops out. Seeing him fight was hilarious. Seeing the finale is great, and everything in between is cool to see the world and understand it. By season 2, it's the big fight of the big reveal of, okay, the others are actual shifter Titans also. Of course they are. That makes sense. We've seen one, so it makes sense that others would be one too, because they were different than all the rest. Which everybody, by the time we saw that in season 1, was like, so who could that possibly be? Well, one of them did seem kind of stocky and had kind of a buzz cut. Who else is stocky with a buzz cut that we've seen that's been around? And then season 3 was basically the big thing of, the Ackermans, it's ridiculous, and the other Ackerman, well, we added another one and they have guns now. Now we're going to watch them all fight each other. Cool. You didn't need to give me a buildup of 20 episodes for that. Yeah. We know what it was. You showed me the great episode of them trying to chase down Levi, who is a goated of a character because when he has his scenes, he does what he needs to do and he does it well. And I appreciate that. He brings the hype and he brings it with a ferocity that I appreciate, that I need a lot of other characters to step their game up on. But we got that for that season.
One aspect I don't like in this regard is that, actually a couple aspects that they sort of conjoin together, is as far as we know, anyone or no one is a Titan. It doesn't really, we don't even know anything about the Titans, really. So to say, this person is the Armored Titan, this person's a Claw, well, they're also introducing Ymir, who is the Jaw Titan, who we just didn't know was a Titan, and we didn't know the Jaw Titan exists at this point. So, first of all, we don't know that there's only a certain number of Titan shifters. That's the first thing. We didn't know that there's a limited amount of them. Second of all, we didn't know that there was a difference between Titan shifters and pure Titans. Especially considering, I know, but especially considering season 1 with Trost, Eren starts when he turns into a Titan, just as a Berserker Titan, not a normal Titan, but he wasn't there mentally or whatever. So what's the difference between him and Annie, Reiner, Bertolt, or whatever? Maybe they just mastered their Titan powers, unlike every other Titan who hasn't been able to do that because of the whatever mysterious backstory they have. So maybe in season 3, Mikasa is gonna master her Titan powers, or Connie in season 4 is gonna master his. Who knows? Or sorry, the point is that we don't know. So it's I can't get invested if I don't have any details to go off of in the first place. As far as I know, literally everyone's a Titan, and Levi is a betrayal backstabber guy. Same with Eren, same with Pixis. It's all the same. It just doesn't matter. Everyone's a Titan. I don't care.
While I get that, Oodie, I just feel no offense, it just, like I said, unless I'm just a genius level predictor, I just feel it was obvious.
You're saying that based on their appearance?
No, it wasn't just off their appearance. It was off the other susness of that. I just felt I don't think the story painted it so that Levi was, gonna betray them. It felt it was clear who to watch out for.
Yeah, because they were scared faces at certain points. Yeah, Connie's just a sus.
I was gonna say, not all of them I can say I could see, but after seeing Eren transform and realizing that Eren transform looked like Eren as a Titan, painting Annie as a Titan was easy because I saw Annie as a Titan came out real clear and easy once I saw it, especially when I saw the stance of her in the forest. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, that's Annie. There's no way in hell.
Kamui, don't you dare.
The first time you actually got to see her look on, she looked like it. And I will say for Reiner, he looks like himself just as a Titan with armor on.
Eren looks more like
haircut and the same square jaw. I would say now on the other side, Berthold, I didn't see Berthold as the Colossal because they didn't look the same and I didn't look at him that way. So to me, that one didn't come through clearly. And the Jaw Titan, I didn't see that one. But it's one of those things that once Reiner was one, after a while, it didn't take it too hard after watching some reactions and seeing it was Reiner is always with motherfucking Berthold. And if Annie looks like one and Reiner looks like one, and I had to go back and I was like, didn't they fucking come in together? Weren't they a squad?
Listen,
I was so
we're not going down.
Wait a motherfucking minute. Wait a minute. So I was okay.
Easy deductive reasoning.
I was like, but I thought it was weird. I was like, if he's that, why doesn't he use that shit more often? There has to be something weird with his, because the other ones, could pop up at times. Fucking the female Titan popped up all the time at first. The armor Titan popped up and was gone. I'm like, that didn't make a lot of sense, but they explained a bit of that, and seeing them when they did the big reveal, that was cool. But the details about the shifters we didn't know, and we learned that in time. But I felt where it lost was that you put 3 seasons into explaining everything in the walls in this world. Then you take a season to try to explain that there's a whole nother world. This is technically a prison that you're in. There's a whole nother society. All these other things are going on. All these other stuff is going on. And it felt like they tried to do what honestly should have been done or shown before in times. They tried to do it as a big shock reveal, like, oh, there's a whole nother society. What you've known isn't actually the real world. Cool. I guess that's a way to do that. But now you need to connect these two worlds. It needs to make sense. It needs to pop in a way. And it felt like they took a lot of time trying to establish, kind of like what they did in My Hero Academia with the villain arcs and all that. They took a lot of time trying to reestablish something else they should have been establishing along the way. Whereas at least there they had snippets where they gave you some of that. Here they dropped you into a whole nother world to say, no, this is still a part of that world and this is how it's going to connect. And then to make those two collide. It felt like a kid who realized they had one cool toy and was like, now I'm gonna bring over this other cool toy you didn't even hear about or know about, and it's gonna fight this one too, and they're gonna pow, 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 and it's gonna be great. And it's like, you're putting a lot in here, and the payoff for it didn't come in the way that they were hoping, I imagine. It wasn't some epic level, all out everything. It was so all this was going on, and this is your answer for it of coming over here was okay. All right, that's the story then. That's the thing. Oh, you shot her? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You did. I wasn't even emotionally invested in that. I was like, it's war. You came over here starting war. What did you think was gonna happen? I'm confused why y'all sad. Have y'all never been in warrior soldiers? You lose, didn't the scouts lose like 70% of their people every recruiting trip? Like, your people die every day. What is new now that they got shot? You didn't think to wear bulletproof outfits when y'all came over here with people with guns? But that was just me being critical of it because I thought that it slowed its pacing in a way that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
The story is okay, but again, Kaiju number 8 does what Attack on Titan wanted to do, but better and faster.
Yes.
Is the best way I can say it. That is the most, that's the thing that I've said to other people is like, if you liked Attack on Titan, you should love Kaiju number 8 because it does the same thing but better.
Yeah.
Which, if you can take a trope and do it better,
me up for it because I do like Attack on Titan. So
yeah, and it's not that Attack on Titan is bad; it has a good story. It's a drawn out story, and I hate that it's drawn out for the sake of drawn outness. It could have been.
I think it's just drawn out in certain parts that didn't need to be. Because, like, for example, because you were referring to like the Kenny, and the whole stuff with the government.
Season 3, yeah.
So a lot of the stuff early on, especially I'm using Kenny in particular, the story with Kenny, I mean, I don't know how many episodes it took before that really mattered, but like the first probably like 10 episodes, I just had nothing to do with Kenny's story, really. It is just plot. He's just he's just there. He's just doing shit. It's not really about Kenny's story, and we could have done that a little bit quicker. To get to the point. Basically,
Kamui, I think we told you this, but when you were watching that for the first time, and me, Cam, and Trippy were preparing for the podcast to talk about that portion of the story because you just watched it. Me, Cam, Trippy were rewatching those episodes, the beginning of season 3. We got in a call, and we watch it, as you know, because we meme about this all the time, at 2 times speed, while me and Trippy were playing Super Buddy Man in the corner.
Yeah.
Cam hated it.
I can see that.
Now, I do want to say, I don't dare go down the route of discussing the appearance of the Titans. We're definitely not doing that. I will say, though, like I was saying, I think other characters look just as much like the Titans as those characters that we got. It would have made just as much sense. But also,
some do.
I'm not going to say that the Titan shifters looked sus because they were scared or whatever else. They looked the same as any other character.
Oh, no.
I would also say that, Reiner's drawn.
You gotta rewatch season 2 at 1 time speed, bro. I'm telling you, it was just obvious.
Like, Reiner might have been drawn next to Bertolt a lot, who was drawn next to Annie a lot. They were all drawn next to all the other scouts pretty much just
No, but
as
it
much the
was
same.
like
They
we
were all in
knew
the same
but
scenes.
we knew in the plot that they came from the same hometown and everything. Like we
care.
knew, and they were always together. Like, stop capping. Come on, like we knew they were like,
I would
especially
say
Ryan
again,
and Bertolt. We knew
And
they were
Connie
like,
came from a town
right.
where Connie's parents were turned into a Titan. You
yeah,
lose your
I
point.
was gonna say I didn't know about Bertolt. That was just a wild one. But again, you can't look at the armored Titan and say, well, he looks like you take all the photos of all the scouts
And it looks like
of all the
Erwin.
people
I
you've been seeing
agree.
in the
Yeah, it
show.
looks like Erwin.
He does not look like
Yes, he
like
does,
Erwin
bro. He
at
looks more like
all.
Erwin than he does
Bro,
Reiner.
it looked like Reiner.
No, I mean even the haircut is the same. So I could see it if maybe the hair color changed, maybe the face changed. Burt Reiner has a square box body type, and that is literally just a bigger version of him with a boxier type. It looks like him. Same way that Aaron looks like the Berserker Titan. When you look at it dead on and you can see it, it makes a lot of sense. And when you understand, oh, he's inside there and he can shift into one, that now makes it okay. So the Titans appeared out of nowhere suddenly, and then they disappeared out of nowhere. So clearly they must be somebody who can do the same thing as him. And if they came here, they had to come here for a reason. So who, a showman that the show would show you, and they just wouldn't pull some random person out of nowhere like Uncle Ackerman, who popped up in season 3 that never been mentioned before. Assuming that you've seen them since they've shown them on screen already, it's assumed they're one of the characters they show regularly. Going through the things, there's Annie, Historia, who are the two blonde women that really fit the bill. Between the two of them, Historia doesn't seem like she's capable, while Annie is a capable fighter. The female Titan looks extremely capable in the action we saw her of doing a lot of ridiculously tactical stuff. Historia just doesn't fit that bill. Like, until I saw her in the forest part, I was like, she kind of looks like it, but maybe she did all the tactical things. I'm like, there's no way in fucking hell. Historia can barely use her gear and shit right and seems worried at times and gets taken care of. She's not built like that. In the same way that if it was something tactical, I would assume that it would have been Levi if the Titan could do some better fighting other than just randomly punching the shit out of everything. That's some Aaron shit. That's all it has. That's all it can do, because Aaron can't really fight, or he couldn't fight for a while.
Okay, and in the world of Attack on Titan, where there's thousands of Titans roaming around, it's easy to look in a retrospect and say, yeah, I knew these Titan shifters were people. You can't say that because you have abnormal Titans running around too. So it's not like the Titan shifters stand out necessarily. There's intelligent Titans. There's running Titans. There's Titans that do and look weird and abnormal behaviors and all sorts of different. It's like, I'm not going to say the armor Titan, the colossal Titan, or the female Titan are standing out in any particular regard more so than all the other Titans, who are all unique and weird and random in their own ways, that all exhibit different behaviors and all sorts of things, reactionary, whatever. They all are just different. So I'm not going to say randomly in season 1, episode 8, that one random Titan running at people was a person. I'm not going to guess that. So I'm looking at the armor Titan, the colossal Titan, the female Titan the exact same way. I'm not just going to assume they're a person. Oh, they have to be someone. So who of all the people do I know are they? Oh, it's gotta be these, because I'm not doing that for the other Titans. It's, again, there's an exception to the rule, which is Aaron, and we learn about Annie, but I'm not going to look at the Beast Titan in season 2, episode 1 and be like, oh, I wonder who that is. No, that's just an abnormal Titan. I mean, freaking, who is it? Not Levi, but like Levi's friend.
Bro,
not,
I know, I hate to say it though. Like, first of all, the Beast Titans start talking English, and it's pretty obvious.
There's other Titans talking English, Kamui.
What other Titans talked English?
The one in Aizel's notebook, Eagles' notebook, whatever her name was.
What?
It's an OVA. Kamui, you didn't watch it, despite being an Attack on Titan fan.
OVA. I didn't watch the OVA, but to me, ideally, I just assumed that one, he wouldn't be the only Titan with some type of special ability, and the 2 Titans we saw were different than all the rest. There are no other armored Titans wearing any type of armored skin. There's different skinless ones, but there's none with armor, and there's none that are 100 feet tall or whatever the hell.
But we know the Titans are all different sizes, so that sort of goes out the window as well.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
I was gonna say,
I mean, again, this is why I say you gotta watch it at one time speed, because while in the first 2 episodes, I can totally understand not assuming that the Colossal or Armor Titan are people. I can understand that. There's no indication that they are. But
Mhm.
once you have Aaron's Titan thing, and then you start the female Titan arc, pretty early when after the female Titan shows up, they make it clear that she's not just an abnormal. There's something more going on. It has a lot of similarities to Aaron, and it's like, and then it just keeps building and building. It's like, okay, it's pretty obviously a person. And then whether or not you guess that's Annie, it doesn't really matter. Then once you figure out Annie's one, it's like, okay, let's look at the other two Titans who stand out as being similar to the
They
female
don't
Titan
stand
and different
out.
from the other Titans. What do you know? You've got the Armor Titan and the Colossal
I mean,
Titan.
ideally, height-wise, the only other Titans that were really big were, I think, a max of 20 meters, which is a fifth of the size of the Colossal Titan. Now, if there were other colossal-sized Titans around, wouldn't think twice about it. There's just a normal, really stupidly large Titan. But seeing that it just appeared and broke the wall that was designed to stop them from getting in the wall, that seemed unusual. And then one has armor plating, which none of the others have armor plating, which makes it look different.
I don't think
Now,
that
I can't say anything
really
about
matters. The armor plating,
the
I guess
armor
I can
Titan?
give you. I wouldn't say. I mean, they call it the armor plating because it looks like it's not literally armor. It's just like skin that's
Yeah,
hardened more
hardened
than normal,
flesh.
but it's not even like hardened skin like we
Correct.
get the blue skin or what. It's just it just looks like
Well,
it's more like
it is
leather
Titan
than it
hardening.
is
It's just
armor.
different Titan hardening, and they never really address
Explain
that
Exactly.
aspect
So I'm
of
not gonna
it.
say
But
that's
Yeah,
anything
that
special
is
or
just,
different.
I
The thing
just,
with this,
okay, extra hard skin that others don't seem to have, which seems weird. So
but it's an
that was why they
abnormal.
became a thing, because
It's addressed in episode
it
one
doesn't act
or
like
two,
an
I should say.
abnormal, because abnormals act completely differently than normal Titans, which just chase any type of human that's around to eat it.
they were also oddly intelligent. Like, and we learned that one before we knew about the people
But
Titans.
we don't
Like,
know about Titans at all
Aaron
yet. This is
points
why
out
Hanji's doing the
that the Colossal
experiments.
Titan seems to have intelligence. Hold on, let me finish. He points out that Titan seems to have intelligence. Now, at first, that could just be Titans are intelligent, or at least some of them are. But then once you get the reveal that another one was a human, it's pretty easy to deduce that the first one that seemed intelligent was probably a human too. It's not hard deductive reasoning to like come to these conclusions.
I'd
No,
say the biggest factor is the way that they appeared and disappeared, which is unusual because Titans don't just appear and disappear. All the other abnormals, when we see, they still do weird abnormal shit, but they're visible and they're around doing things. It's the appearing and disappearing which makes it such a thing, because that's unusual for anything. Other than the female Titan, at first I just thought that she was on a mission until she showed intelligence, and I was like, that's okay. Then if that's a thing, it retroactively meant that the other ones might be something special. And by that point, it's just about looking at the people and seeing who would fit it. Because, like, even looking now, because I'm looking over at the seasons on Crunchyroll and checking out season 2, episode 34, that shows just Reiner standing there with the head. It's the same haircut. It's the same furry buzz cut that
God.
looks the same with the same little
Same
parts in the
thing.
front.
For sure in the movie it is Erwin, by
And
the
if
way. And Levi is the Colossal Titan, but whatever. In the live action.
And I was gonna say, if it was the commander one, he wouldn't hide it. He would own it because he's the commander. He would use that
Whatever.
shit to his advantage because
We know that in retrospect. We don't know that in season 1.
I would say in season 2 is where it becomes a thing, not in season 1.
In the later half
Season
of
1,
season
we
2.
just know that we have the one. Season 2 is where we kind of learn the whole thing when we get the reveal, and it makes a lot more sense.
Besides, Erwin's being sus in season 1 too. Like, he can't be like, oh, look at Bertolt and Reiner. They're the only ones being sus. When you have Erwin talking to Eren and being like, Eren, who is your true enemy? Look around.
I feel like I mean, like, again, like I'm not trying to say that what you're saying like it should be completely ignored, but like the fact that I had the interpretation that Erwin figured out that there are humans as Titans, and then we immediately discover one of them. I just feel like I said, unless I just perfectly guessed the plot perfectly here, it just feels like it was implying that.
Okay, well, let me get to the female Titan first. First of all, I would not say it's very early on where they make it obvious that it's actually a human Titan shifter. They make it clear that there's some sort of traitor thing going on, which is the point of this plan. And then we see that there's like a traitor in the scouts, the human,
like,
after
figures
the armor
out,
Titan.
like the human
the
aspect
Titan.
pretty easily.
I would not say that's necessarily the case at all, but whatever. Even then, we don't know there's a connection between the two ideas. Hypothetically,
I'm sick of it.
Hypothetically, the traitor in the scouts that is mysterious and we don't know who it is yet could be controlling the female Titan, like a remote control or something. We don't know the rules yet.
Also possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we know that a human's the mastermind regardless.
That's fine. We don't know someone's in there. I think until
the point
it might be until Levi says, like when he's stamping on her head, like when they pull you out of there or whatever he says. Probably before that.
No, bro. The Armin encounter is what gave it away.
I was going to say the Armin encounter made it look like she was intelligent and was moving with purpose. The part that gives it away easily is when they go to attack her and she fights tactically. That's not even something that normal Titan does. And she goes to protect the nape of her neck, which, as they know, especially Levi from cutting out Eren as many times as he has, knows that's where the shifter would lie if it's such a thing. And she moves to defend that position, which is a tactical thing, which tells us, one, she's intelligent, she's tactical, she's aware of the danger that she's in and the threat to her. And two, and five, she understands that instead of trying to fight her way out, she's looking for an escape route to be able to get away, which is how she then summons, which we'll find out she can do, more Titans to be able to help her out, which don't look or act like her in any way, shape, form, or fashion. They just blindly run into combat and chase after humans, which is what normal Titans actually do.
Now, Annie versus Levi's
so I would say
squad.
by the time they ambush her.
Go ahead, finish your point.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say that was another one that makes it easy. She was different, but go ahead.
Annie versus Levi's squad was intelligent. I wouldn't necessarily say, I guess it was tactical, but it's not like Annie. She's fighting like a Titan, like a monster, not like Annie. Annie didn't use regeneration in one of her eyes rather than both of her eyes to speed up the healing. Annie's not stomping on people the same way she stomped on Petra. It's clear when she kicks Eren that it's like Annie, because Eren's making a note of it. It's not like she's fighting like Annie up to that point. And pulling the hood off, they make a big moment out of it. It's mysterious. I'm not looking at, it's so obvious that it's a human in there. That's why she's taking off her hood.
I really don't think I was being this world level genius picking up the most subtle clue in the world. I feel like it was pretty easy to find if you just weren't watching at 4x speed.
Kamui, you know that joke annoys me because I watched season 1 like freaking 12 different times at 1 time speed. I didn't even start doing that till like season 3. You can get out of here with that nonsense.
Didn't pick up on any of it.
What do you mean any of it? You're just being stupid when you say that. No. Okay, we're gonna go back to season 1 now. Okay, whatever you want to say about the armored. Again, I already addressed that, so I don't even think it counts. I will not give you the Colossal Titan again because even though
the Colossal Titan's simple deductive reasoning, if you figure out the female's Annie and that the armored is Rhina, it's pretty easy deductive reasoning to assume that the Colossal's probably Bertolt.
Okay, so how does that address the point that I haven't made yet? Go ahead, Kamui.
What are you not going to give me about the Colossal?
Okay, like I was saying, when I was addressing the height, so the height, going back to episode 1, by the way, episode 1, where you said that episode 1 too, you can understand. So going back to that, right, Kamui? Okay, okay, cool. So going back to that, the variance, I think, also matters to where you have like 1 meter Titan up to, you were saying 20, I think it goes up to like 30, if not 40 meter Titans. The fact that you have that much of a variance, 100 is not that far off. It could be the high end of Titans, but they could go higher up. You don't know. The world doesn't know because we haven't learned the rules of Titan yet as well. So that could be a tiny Titan in comparison to the actual Colossal Titans who's 1,000 meters tall. And they just haven't encountered a Titan this tall yet. You know this Titan shifter at all. And I'm not going to say it's intelligence. They're, if anything, they're definitely not using tactics. They're at best using the slightest bit of intelligence, which is not even intelligence. It's just not being absolutely brain dead and going after like the gates. I'm not going to say that's intelligent. It's not like they're fighting like Annie using tactics of blocking anything or going around the cannon fire. No, they're running straight into the freaking fire. Like they're being stupid, just like any other Titan in that regard. They're just being smart in the fact that they're like doing things that are going to lead to humanity's extinction. So I'm not even going to say those are people in that case. It's just Titans acting as a hive mind, similar to like the Dead Space necromorphs or anything else. Like the cockroaches from Terraform Mars. I'm not going to say their intelligence is there. They're just doing things that aren't brain dead in that regard. So then you have other aspects, like the fact that in like episode 3 and 4 of season 1, as well as episode 1 where we learn about the episode like 3 and 4, we're learning about new rules about the Titans, like the fact that they don't consume anything but humans, or the fact that their nape is the weak point. We don't know until like episode 4, or the fact that they don't move at night. We don't get that until they're teaching it to us in episode 4. So no, I'm not gonna look back at episode 1 and 2 and apply those rules to these Titans, or think, oh man, there could be people based on these new... They're still teaching us new rules, even going to like the late season 1 with Hanji capturing those 2 Titans. Again, it's about mystery of the world. We're still learning about the Titans through Hanji's 2 Titans that she names. So no, I'm not going to assume that we know all the rules. They're still introducing us new rules.
But what I'm failing to understand is, at least for me, I already said that I wouldn't expect you to look at episode 1 and 2 and say, yeah, the Colossal in armor must be humans. I said that. I said it's relevant by the female Titan arc.
So I'm not expecting in the female Titan arc for those 2 Titans from episode 1 and 2 that we haven't seen in 17 episodes, for them, first of all, to be relevant. Second of all, for them to be very memorable. I guess he said the freaking start of the story, but I'm not expecting them to be people. I'm not surprised that they are, but I'm not looking back and wondering, man, they must be people, so who are they? Because they must be someone.
There's another problem
that I know
you need
as
to
well.
keep in mind. How invested were you? Like, honestly, how invested were you? Were you watching just to get it done, or were you actually invested at this point?
In season 1, at least the first half, I would say, Tross was too long. And episode 3 was kind of bad. But the first 2 episodes
I think that makes a big difference. If you weren't invested, that explains it to me. You didn't care to look back and think about it. I was invested, and so I did think about it. But if that's the difference, that's the difference. You weren't invested, that explains it all to me. But if you are invested in it, I feel like it's very easy to think about that. But if you're not invested, well, then of course, why would you think about it? You're not invested.
I was invested enough to watch like 12 different times on Toonami throughout the years. I was invested enough to listen to the music in the shower and think about it in other regards. You weren't invested
enough to think about it.
No, I was invested enough to record the episodes, go watch the cool moments again as well. That's another aspect. So 3 different angles I was invested in it.
Were you invested enough to think about mysteries?
So when mysteries are
enough to theorize about the story.
When mysteries are present, unless they're forcing me to actually think about a mystery, I would rather not think about it to be surprised. Like, unless they're telling me, oh, it must be a Titan, I wonder who it is.
You would rather be surprised. So of course you didn't think about whether or not those Titans were shifters or not. You didn't want to think about it.
There's nothing in the story leading me to make me think about it.
I disagree with that.
I would say there might have been, actually, I would say there might have been nothing for you to make you think about it, but there might have been key factors for him. And again, for me, after seeing Annie, I assumed that the other 2 Titans that looked different than the rest also had to be something special because 1, they appeared in the first episode. 2, they immediately disappeared after causing the most damage possible from a tactical position. You broke through the powerful walls and broke through the 2 gates that allowed these creatures to mass infect and flood this area, into basically leading them to a kill pen where people and humans died in mass because they couldn't get away. It was impossible from all the chaos that happens. From there,
I'll also add that while this one isn't actually relevant at all in hindsight, at the time it would make a difference, which it did for me. These 3 Titans were the only Titans that were red. You know, it was something to odd about these 3 in particular. I understand, of course, the Attack Titan's not red, the Jog Titan's not red, the Beast Titan's not red, and so on. But those 3, the only other 3 mysterious ones, one of them happens to be a human from the same town as Raina and Bertolt. They're all red, they're all villains. I don't know. Like, it feels easy to group them together.
That's the most ridiculous thing. If the story introduces a mystery, but they're not giving me anything to latch onto, to bite into, then I'm not going to do that. For example, why were the Titans trying to execute humanity? Why do they see these people as devils? If they're not going to give me crumbs
don't
of a
know at the
direction,
time, but
exactly,
that
we
doesn't
don't
mean.
know. We can make
But that
assumptions.
doesn't
That's not
mean
deductive
that there's
reasoning. That's
nothing in the story.
assumptions.
But Udi, but the reasoning behind the humans' motives doesn't mean there weren't inklings or hints that there were humans behind this. We don't know why Marley's doing this or that it's Marley, but I think there is plenty of indication by the female Titan arc that there are humans even before then, but by then especially, that there are some humans who could turn into Titans. And there are a couple in particular who seem suspicious, like they could be also human Titans. And then there's another couple of characters who feel like they could fit the bill. I feel like there is plenty there, and I really don't want to keep discussing this personally because we're just not going to agree. You didn't think it was there. I feel like it's because of immersion that you may not have had, or whatever. I don't care. Maybe I'm wrong. I felt it was pretty clear. The story gave me everything I needed to do it. I don't think I was being a god tier chess player. I feel like the story gave it to me.
No, I think you cheated. Looking at the parents and making assumptions.
Because
I would say the hints are obviously there. I'm not denying. It's undeniable that the hints are there. My argument from the very get-go is that the hints are disconnected. Okay, there's just as many hints that Connie is a Titan as there are Bertolt.
No, I disagree.
You call it deductive reasoning. I call it assumptions. That just happen to coincidentally be right.
The story made clear. I really don't want to keep the story. Honestly, made it clear. The story
made it just as clear that Connie's a Titan.
Was a Titan. The hints were that his village got turned into Titans while he was gone.
Honestly, all that meant to me at that point is that maybe Connie had the ability to turn into a Titan too, but he seemed shocked by the idea, which means either one, he hadn't before, or two, he had no idea about it because he was so disgusted by it. Or three, is a great actor and deserved an Oscar, but his own mother turned into a Titan, which I feel like wouldn't be a part of his plan. Plus, I also felt like if he was a Titan, he would be, I don't know, I just expected after the female Titan arc, the Titans had to be the best of the best. So I figured it had to be in the top 10, that they were the most skilled people. Because I compared them to Annie, that they had to be somewhat on Annie's level. And when you go back and look at the first episode after seeing the female Titan arc, it's very clear that those two are working in tandem and working extremely well. And a blitz maneuver that was brilliantly pulled off, to say the least. But then they immediately disappeared, which is the other big part that makes it odd. Had they stuck around, had they just wrecked shit for a while and just ran away, be completely different. But they just do the damage and then suddenly they're gone. Unless they can teleport suddenly, they turned into people and blended in with the rest, which is weird, which means there's a reason why they did all that, which they don't tell us till later. But I also thought it was weird that the Titans only eat humans. To me, that meant there had to be some reason why Titans specifically seek out humans and want to destroy them, which I also thought was weird, but was something that the story would have to tell me later, because they didn't give you anything for that in the first season for you to know that.
I will also say, well, yes, you could say to assume this would be an assumption. To ponder about this, I don't think is an assumption. The fact that these monsters only seek out humans, I do think could point you in the direction of a humanity-related thing, because, well, why are they only seeking out humans? They're not just monsters eating anything and everything. They're seeking out something in particular, humans. So I feel like to ponder of the idea that they're actually humans, which I did, isn't unreasonable. To assume it at that point, yeah, that's an assumption, but to at least consider, I don't think is.
Well, no, you can consider it based on episode 1. Again, regardless of Titan shifters, you can look at the Titans and be like, wow, they're humanoid. They're weird looking, but they look like naked humans, which that's the meme. That's fine. And so that means the surprise, the reveal, shocking revelation in season 3, everyone's a Titan. I definitely don't care by that point. Even in episode 1, that's not a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting it, but I didn't know or care in either direction because they weren't giving me anything. I'm not going to say it was obvious at all. No, they could have been a different species entirely that just look like humans.
I would say again, that is true. They could have been just a completely different species, which is what I thought through most of season 1 until the female Titan arc. And then at that point, I figured that I thought it might be a Titan society of humans that could turn into Titans. And they, for some reason, wanted this place, which didn't seem to make sense because if you had the Colossal Titan and the Armored Titan again, assuming that they broke in here as easy as they did, one, why did they not do so for so long? Because nobody had breached the walls in forever. And two, if you have them, why aren't you using them now? And you seem to have almost unlimited Titan numbers outside the walls. You could easily just break through each of these before they could do anything to you.
So another aspect of this
But then you
is
find out about the Colossal Titan later and his weaknesses.
Kamui, I feel like you went into Attack on Titan either from episode 1 or at some point expecting it or thinking it is a mystery series, like something in the mystery genre, whereas I disagree. It just has mystery elements. When it is, at its core soul root, it is a horror story. And so to assume or have a mystery of, man, why are they going after humans in particular? I'm not looking at it like there's some deeper meaning. I'm looking at it from the horror aspect of, these guys are evil. Oh my god, no wonder Eren wants to kill them all. That emotional resonation with the story. As far as I know, if I'm looking at it from a mystery perspective, they're literal devil spawns. They're people from literally hell that Satan is bringing back through green lightning to kill all of humanity.
So while I understand that, in my personal opinion, you brought up this question earlier with Ervin, the moment Ervin asked, who is it that you think is the real enemy? I feel like it's what really sparks the mystery part to where it's not just horror, because otherwise that's just a stupid question that never gets addressed. You know,
well, it is
the
either
fact
way.
that that's a question and that's going to have meaning tells me there is at least a mystery.
No, I've seen all of Kuroto's Mystery Shack. Okay, again, it's undeniable. I watched all of Kuroto's Mystery Shack, so even if I didn't catch it myself, I would have caught it through his analysis of the series. So I know all of it. Even he agrees that line is weird. He has interpretations, but the story never does go anywhere with that line in particular. And if you disagree, take it up with him. Okay, you can take it up with him when we get him on.
Well, I mean, Annie, there you go.
Okay, why does Erwin know that? Yeah, exactly.
Because Ervin believes we don't know this until later on, but Ervin already has the whole theory with his dad about humanity outside the walls. So he's coming into this with a mystery suspicion from the get-go. And I have to look at the specific sequence of events. I don't know if Sonny and B had already been murdered by this point, for example, but let's say they had. Eren can be looking at it as like, hey, a traitor did that. And like I said, I don't remember the specific orders. I do believe that may have already happened by this point. So Eren is looking at it from that perspective.
The brain works differently. Like, you remember those names. It's ridiculous. I'll also say, why is he saying this out loud? And then why is he saying this specifically to Eren? So again, there's too many
because he's trying to gauge his reaction to it. But I would also say it
Oh.
depends on what you look for. Me, I'm not a horror guy, so I don't look at Attack on Titan as horror. I looked at it as a mystery, which is probably why it was such a slow burn for me, because it took so long for them to give the mystery elements, because they also were doing, as I can say now, horror elements in there. And it's like, I get that, but I felt the better part of the story wasn't the horror, it was the beauty of the story, which could have some horrific elements in it. And I felt the pacings killed on that. So for me, especially on the slower episodes, my mind was theory crafting, because that's what I generally do for most things. And by the time it got confirmed that Annie was the female Titan, to me, the other two Titans that have been named, because those are the only other named ones, they didn't have one like small Titan or big leg Titan or something like that. They had Colossal, Armored, and the female Titan, which I thought was weird that they didn't have female Titans anymore, which seemed odd they would name it that way, since there were other women Titans. But since it got a name, to me, a name Titan meant you had to be like Eren and be able to turn into a Titan. But it was the who. But once I gave into the idea that Annie was a goddamn Titan, to me, looking around at him, Berthold looks like his Titan.
For that, you have to look at who's naming them and what information do they have. They're only naming that based on like their appearance or whatever.
Oh, me, I would just went by their straight looks to see who they would be, because Annie, one, is kick-ass. So two, I needed to see who else would be top. So I went through and looked at all of the damn pictures of the scouts, like their little thing where they're standing there and like saluting. He's the only one that looks like it. I guess you could say the commander a little bit, but I don't see that one because I imagine his Titan would be taller instead of stockier and squat.
Okay, for example,
If he was to turn into armor.
I don't know if they use this
Mhm.
term in the series, but at least for the fans, we call the Smiling Titan the Smiling Titan. The Smiling Titan is not a Titan shifter. I would definitely not say based on the name alone, they have to be someone. In fact, the Smiling Titan stands out because unlike
No, I
all the
agree.
other Titans,
Well,
it
that
smiles, so
makes
it
sense, though.
stands out. It must be a Titan. I wonder who the Titan shifter is.
That so there's two things I'll say on this. Two things. One, I don't believe the characters in the story call it the Smiling Titan. I believe that's just us, the fans. Whereas the Armored Titan Colossal, the characters call it that. So that's a very key thing. Second, while the Smiling Titan wasn't a shifter, it was an important Titan. That not because, I mean, one, it happens to be the devious looking Titan that keeps killing all the important people for Eren, but also, I mean, there is a plot Titan, like that's
Two
Diane
people.
Fritz. So it's not just a nobody. Well, Eren doesn't have a personal connection to Diane, but Zeke and Grisha do.
It's
So
a
it is little
nobody
bit
in the
more than
universe.
just a random bozo Titan.
It's a nobody in the universe. They're important to the story, Eren's story. It's not like they're important to anyone else's story, though.
Correct.
Well, they're
but I
important
would
to
say,
Grisha and Zeke's. Well,
That's not the
I would
point.
say they're important to their backstory, but it's not important to most of the other characters in the story. It just has a
Yeah.
connection to our characters through their actions at this point that we find out later, which is great. But the Armored Titan and Colossal Titan, along with the female Titan, were capitalized. Like when you see their capitals, they say them as a name. So that's why those stood out to me as different.
Regardless
And
of
they
the
didn't
name,
say the
though,
Smiling Titan, or I would have said the Smiling Titan would have been one.
regardless of the name, though, you could
like I
even
said, the
say based on the
characters didn't
smiling.
say, "Oh, the Smiling Titan's back." It's more just like we, the fans, are calling it the Smiling Titan because she's got the big ass smile.
Okay, but again, it's not just the smile. There's other aspects of the Smiling Titan to where you can say, "Oh, it must be a Titan shifter. They stand out." Because again, episode it might be 2. No, it's at the end of 1. Bro, the Smiling Titan's aura, like it's got that demented aura. No other Titan has that same aura, so maybe that's
I
an
agree.
ability of the Smiling Titan, or the fact that it keeps showing up when Eren wants it to show up the least. Maybe it's a Titan that has it could have intelligence. That could be intelligent, or it could have like a radar tracker for Eren's coordinate. Could be a person
But
because
here's
of
what I'll
that.
say though, Oodie. I'm not saying you have 0 point here because again, thinking the Smiling Titan could be one of those important characters is completely justified. But what I do want to say is there are things called red herrings. Now, this
Oh
isn't
my
exactly a red
God.
herring
Oh my
exactly,
God.
but there's a
That's
little bit of
doubling
similarity here
down.
in that just because one thing looks like it's important when it's not, doesn't mean that other things that look like they're important aren't important. So just because the Smiling Titan isn't, anyway, at least as important as the other 3, doesn't mean we should just assume the other 3 aren't important.
That's
Like,
crazy. I look at the complete diametrically opposite viewpoint. You can tell just based on my voice how much I disagree with that. Because the Smiling Titan turned out to be a big pile of nothing, you can look at the other 3 and say, because they're the same level of importance there, they can also be nothing. They don't have to be something.
But also there's an order issue though. The female Titan gets the reveal long before the Smiling Titan. So we find out the female Titan is a human long before we find out that the Smiling Titan, well, obviously they're all humans, but we find out that the female Titan is a human Titan shifter long before we find out that the Smiling Titan is just a regular Titan. If the orders were reversed, I can understand you then retroactively saying, okay, maybe the female Titan is nothing more than just a girl Titan. But because that was revealed first, you might think, oh, the Smiling Titan might be another shifter. It's not. Okay, that's fine. That doesn't mean we should just assume that the Armored or Colossal aren't like Annie, though. Because they bear more resemblance to Annie than they do the Smiling Titan. So the order is important here.
Okay. Well, one more route that I'll go with this, and then we can move on to something else if we want. Or maybe end it, because we've been going for like 5 hours now.
Are we even... No, well, hold on. We can't end now. We haven't even talked about Boruto or Naruto. Well, actually,
Okay.
honestly, Naruto we did talk about with the rewrite stuff. But we haven't actually talked about, like, any other Naruto stuff, especially not Boruto. We haven't even started that.
Okay, so one more aspect of Attack on Titan that I want to talk about that's tangentially related to this, and I think this helps my point, but I already know you're going to weaponize this against me. The week before, so season 2, episode 5 came out. The week before Bertolt and Reiner's reveal, me and my friend were just like randomly scouring Attack, because we just made that video, as you know, Kamui. And we were just like, screw it, freaking look up who is a armored colossal titan. Reiner was a spoiler for us. Neither me nor my friend knew the name Bertolt, or based on his picture, based on his Wikipedia page. It's not just his name, his face. We just didn't know he existed in the series. You can say, oh, that's just proof that Oodie wasn't immersed the whole... Again, I watched the series 12 different times. He is so much so a background character, I didn't even know he existed. And you can't say that's not an immersion thing, because I looked up. See, Attack on Titan, Season 1 background characters. I recognize every single one of these characters. I even knew their names at a certain point in time. So no, you can't, like, he's purposefully, intentionally so. I think that's a brilliant thing based on his character. He is in the background.
Yeah, no, that's the point. He is suspicious in the background. I just happen to continuously pick it up. But he is in the background. You're not supposed to focus on Bertolt and be like, wow, he's the focus character. He is in the background. And that's why it's not just the most obvious thing in the world with a reveal for him, especially. It's like, he's in the background. But that doesn't mean that you can't notice him if you like. It's like, you know, I've told you this before. When I watch anime or read manga, I will scrutinize every single inch of the screen. So of course I noticed him, because I noticed the leaf on the ground. That's just how I watch things.
Well, that's another thing, is that you pause and go back and pause and go back and spend 3 hours watching it. I just watched the whole thing through. If there's a hype moment, sometimes I might go back, but usually not. Well, with Attack on Titan, I do that a lot.
I do things my own way. If the story gives me something to theorize about, some stories do it more than others. So, like Death Note, for example, of all the series I've watched, as much as I love Death Note, I think it's given, out of all the series I've watched, the least to theorize on. It's mostly just like, of course, I do the rewinding shit that I do, but I am mostly just here for the enjoyable ride. A lot of the other series, though, Boruto, Attack on Titan, they give me more for me to theorize about. Hunter x Hunter in the current manga arc, especially, not as much earlier on. There were some things, but like for the most part, it's the current manga arc where I'm doing that. But some stories give you more to theorize. I feel like Attack on Titan gave me enough for me to do that. And then, of course, the way I watch the freaking anime, of course, I'm gonna notice Bertolt with his like. What's the most can't think of the word, but you know, his sus look, whatever the word I was looking for.
Yeah, like I know all these characters. Like freaking Marco's a billion times more memorable than Burrito. It's Bertolt, so. But like, okay.
I mean, he's the one I didn't get though.
So I just pulled this up, Kamui, if you're looking at my screen. This is just another example of like, oh, you say it's a red herring. Like, this guy from Season 1, Episode 6 in Tross is probably telling Mikasa, no, don't go out there, that's crazy, you'll die by yourself. Is that hinting at foreshadowing this guy might be a Titan shifter who's actually an enemy of humanity? No, not necessarily. Same as Bertolt and all the other characters in Season 1.
No, because, okay, see, like, just to make an obvious comparison here, the way he's doing it versus the way Reiner tries to convince Kandi to go back to his village makes Reiner look obviously sus. So, like, I understand that's just Reiner not hypothetically being less of a good actor, but, like, Reiner made it obvious for me. If this guy was actually doing that, he was pulling off the acting job so well that I didn't pick up on it.
Yeah. I mean, here's
Bertolt
with John.
Titan doesn't look like
John
doesn't look like his type.
Oh my god, oh my god.